Welcome to the third lesson in Session 4 on the equation and graph of a parabola. In Tier 1, we learned how to graph parabolas using standard form. If you remember, standard form is y equals a times x squared plus b times x plus c. In this class, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into the parabola. In this case, we're going to use vertex form. Now, vertex form comes in two different types. One that produces a vertical axis of symmetry, where our parabola is going to open up or down. And the second, where our parabola produces a horizontal axis of symmetry, where the parabola will open left or right. So the equations are unique and they're easy to identify. For a vertical axis of symmetry, the y variable is isolated, and everything on the right side of the equation is in terms of x. For the horizontal axis of symmetry, the x variable is isolated, and everything on the right side of the equation is in terms of y. So now we're going to talk about some key components here of a parabola. As always, the most important part of a parabola is the vertex. Identifying the vertex is basically the center of the parabola, and it's the point where the graph actually changes direction. It changes from increasing to decreasing. And the vertex is given by the values of h and k, so notice that the values of h and k are located in different directions based on the orientation of the axis of symmetry. Next is the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is a straight line that passes through the vertex of the parabola. So it can be vertical. When y is isolated, you have a vertical axis of symmetry, and when x is isolated, we have a horizontal axis of symmetry. Now the value of a is important because not only will it determine the width of the parabola, a very large value of a will produce a very narrow parabola, and as the value of a gets closer and closer to 0, you will produce a very wide parabola. But also, it's easy to identify the orientation of a parabola. For a vertical axis of symmetry, a positive value of a will open up, and a negative value of a will open down. For a horizontal axis of symmetry, the positive value of a opens to the right, where a negative value of a opens to the left. Now there are a couple of additional components that we're going to introduce in the next lesson, and they're called the focus and the directrix. Now for our first equation, we're going to be asked to graph the parabola y equals -2 times the quantity of x plus 2 squared plus 3. First thing we notice is that y is isolated. So when y is isolated, everything on the right side of the equation is in terms of x. We recognize this as a parabola that's going to open up or down. It's got a vertical axis of symmetry. Now, finding the vertex, I take the values of h and k. So based on, I know that I have a vertical axis of symmetry, so h is grouped with the x and y is located on the right, just outside the parentheses. So the vertex is going to take the value of -2, 3. So we plot the vertex on the graph. Next, we need to draw the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry in this case is going to be a vertical line, and it's going to pass straight through the vertex. So it's going to take the line x equals -2. And lastly, we need to use the vertex and draw a smooth curve in the shape of a parabola. Negative value of a indicates that this parabola is going to open down. And there's my parabola. So when graphing from vertex form, we're not so worried about the perfect shape of a parabola as we were in Tier 1, where we had to create a series of coordinates. In this case, all we're looking for is the correct vertex and the orientation, making sure it opens and closes in the proper direction. In our next example, we have the equation x equals the quantity of y plus 1 squared minus 3. So we notice that x is isolated in this equation, so I know my parabola is going to open left or right. The value of a that I have in this case is 1, so it's a positive 1, so that tells me that the parabola is going to open to the right. First thing I have to do is find the vertex. So the vertex in this case, based on the equation of a parabola that's got a horizontal axis of symmetry, I have a vertex of -3, -1. So we plot that coordinate -3, -1. Next, I'm going to draw the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry in this case is going to be a horizontal line passing through the vertex. So that's going to take the equation y equals -1. Next, I'm going to use the vertex and draw a smooth curve passing through the vertex. A positive value of a tells us that this parabola is going to open to the right. That wraps up our lesson. Please email us if you have any questions, and good luck on the quiz.